Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm really excited to kind of talk to you a little bit about St. Thomas University, a place that really means a lot to me in terms of like the experiences that I've had here at St. Thomas, so much so that I now work here full time, just because I'm not really ready to let Stu go just as yet. So this is really an info session, particularly for Western Canada students. So any questions that you might have, feel free to put that in the Q&A box. So just a little bit about myself. My name is Mochaneta. I'm an admissions counselor here at St. Thomas. I'm actually also a recent graduate. So I did a double major in human rights and criminology, and I just graduated in May 2022. So I'm a recent graduate, but like I said, I guess I loved to do so much that I decided to stay and work here. Just a little bit about what we're going to cover during this presentation. So we're going to talk a little bit about the programs that we offer, the admissions process, scholarships and bursaries, and in general, optimizing your STU experience. We're also going to have a Q&A session at the end, so just kind of like talking about a little bit of my experience, but also a current student's experience that we have on this panel. And I think that'll kind of give you, two different perspectives that will kind of help you understand a little bit of what your time at STU here could look like. So yeah, your camera and microphone will remain off for the duration of the session, but you can still be part of the presentation by utilizing the Q&A box, like I mentioned. So we will be going through those questions. But also you can actually still connect with us one-on-one, either by sending us an email. I will provide a lot of that information at the end. So yeah, just to talk about a little bit of where we're located. So I know for most students in Western Canada, you might not know where, STU is located, and that's totally okay. We're located on the East Coast. So we're in Atlantic Canada, essentially. And that's kind of like where we are. We're in Fredericton, New Brunswick, which is the capital of the province, essentially. That's where we're located. So Fredericton in general is a small city. And we like to say it's a small city, but it has a big city spirit, essentially. So what I mean by that is that you still get to experience the same amount of big city experiences just in a small city. So we still have quite a lot of festivals that happen. I know there's one that happens in September every year. And we have a lot of art shows that happen, a lot of food markets that happen as well. So you still get the same amount of experiences as if you were in a big city. But yeah, just to go a little bit into, Fredericton, New Brunswick. So like I said, it is a provincial capital. So this is where the legislative building is located, which is kind of nice. We do have music festival, like I said, a lot of arts and culture as well. And I guess one of my favorite things about it is that we do have quite a lot of walking trails and biking trails as well, which people utilize no matter what time of the year it is. So even if there's like snow on the ground, you'll still see a lot of people walking their dogs or biking, that sort of thing. And your STU tuition includes a transit bus pass. So this bus pass will actually take you around the city of Fredericton. It literally goes around the greater Fredericton area, essentially, which is very convenient if you're someone coming from out west and you're not bringing a car, or you don't have a car when you're here, you can definitely utilize the bus. That would be definitely helpful for you. But because we're in the provincial capital, there's a lot of endless opportunities for students to be involved in internships, work placements, networking and community, and so much more. And we're going to talk a little bit about those a little bit later on. But yeah, so Fredericton, New Brunswick, like I said, is the startup capital of Canada. When we did a survey, this is what they kind of found out. So yeah, just because it is a small city, it definitely still has the same amount of experiences that you'd get in a bigger city. So yeah, just to head into St. Thomas a little bit. I know for some of you, you might, depending on whatever stage you are in terms of like your research about STU, you might not be, you might just be starting off, or you've heard about us, or you had parents that went to STU. But essentially, we're Canada's only public university exclusively dedicated to the liberal arts. So our main focus is the liberal arts, which is something that I think makes us really attractive. When I was applying to STU, I had no idea what liberal arts was. In my mind, when I heard arts, I was like, oh my gosh, that's something to do with drawing or performance, that sort of thing. But it includes that as well as other things as well. So essentially we look at social sciences and humanities. So this is what we focus on, and these are the programs that we offer. So quite a lot of social sciences and humanities. So you'd be doing a Bachelor of Arts, and then you'd major in one or even two of these programs, or even minor in some of these programs, or even do an honors in these programs. And the difference between a major, minor, and an honors is just like the amount of credit hours that you're putting in those in that program. And also, I guess the biggest difference is that with an honors, you're actually writing a big research paper at the end called your thesis. But yeah, so like I mentioned earlier, I did a Bachelor of Arts, and I majored in criminology and criminal justice, as well as human rights. And I find that a lot of students at STU tend to do a double major. So a lot of students will combine two disciplines and then kind of like focus on that. And a lot of students also do a couple of minors because it is that easy to do them. And doing a double major does not require you to like take an extra year out of your degree, or do summer courses, that sort of thing. You can complete it in the same amount of time as though you're completing one major, essentially. And I think also another great thing to point out is that during your first 2 years at STU, you don't have to have it figured out as to what you want to major in. If you do, that's great. And if you don't, that's also great, because the first 2 years here at STU, you'll have an opportunity to take all these courses and kind of like figure out what you liked. So for example, when I applied to STU, I said I was going to do a major in psychology, but then I took an introduction to criminology, an introduction to human rights, and I guess you know how that ended. I ended up majoring in those subjects essentially. So there's a lot of room for you to change your mind as well, just because I think we intentionally set it up that way, because sometimes your interest in high school might change when you get to university, or like even if you come in already knowing what you want to do, that's totally okay. But there's also a lot of these programs that you can also explore while you're here, as a minor, essentially. We also have a Bachelor of Social Work that students can do. So you'd have the opportunity to start your first 2 years in the Bachelor of Arts program, where you'd take a couple of those courses that we saw in the previous slide. And then you'd be able to apply into the Bachelor of Social Work and finish the 2 years in the Bachelor of Social Work. So when you graduate, you will be graduating with a Bachelor of Social Work, essentially. So yeah, so our classes are capped at 60 students. So you'll never have students more than 60 in a classroom, and that really allows you to have one-on-one and more personalized interactions with your professors, but also your peers, because you actually get to learn a lot of things from them. Teaching here at St. Thomas is very much collaborative. So as much as you're learning from your professors, you're also learning from your peers, and they're also learning from you, because they do want to hear what you think and what you kind of learning from that. So it's definitely not, like big classrooms or anything like that. And usually 60 is about the introduction courses. So I find that the higher you go in your degree, you might end up having like 20 students in a classroom. And that's only because people start focusing on their interests at that point, essentially. 99% of our full-time professors hold the highest attainable degree in their field. So what that means is that if a doctorate is the highest degree they can obtain in their field, they'll most likely have it, essentially, which shows you that you're learning from the best. And that's actually one thing that's beneficial in that, if you ever needed to, like if you're considering psychology, for example, and you're not really sure how to go about it, you can actually connect with psychology professors, and they'll be more than happy to kind of like guide you throughout that process. So experiential learning is at the heart of what we do at STU. So in as much as we're giving you this good quality education and you're learning from the best and you're learning from your peers, we also want you to actually be able to apply everything that you're learning, because in the job market these days, experience is very much important. So we have a lot of opportunities for students to actually apply what they're learning in classroom. As opposed to waiting until you graduate, you can actually start applying what you're learning as you're learning it, which I think is really incredible. So 100% of our internships are either paid or you get some form of course credits towards your degree. And this is great. In terms of like getting paid, all our internships are above minimum wage, which is really, really great as well. So essentially what our experiential learning office does is that it matches students with organizations that reflect their academic interest, as well as their career interest as well. So if you have an organization that you're interested in, and like their values really align with you in terms of like things you want to do one day after you graduate, we can actually pair you up with that organization and you can do an internship with them. And the great thing too is that a lot of my friends did internships throughout their degree. And some of them, by the time they graduated, they'd received a full-time job offer. So we actually have a student right now, Pablo from Spain. He got offered a full-time job and he hasn't even graduated. He's still in his first semester of fourth year. So really that shows you that this can literally happen throughout those connections that you're making during your internship. So we also have great travel study programs for students. So you get to kind of like see the world as you're studying as well. So you have the opportunity of doing 1 semester or 2 semesters abroad, or if you wanted, you could do a travel study, which is a lot, as I guess, a shorter time than the international exchange. In that also, we also receive a lot of exchange students that we partner with from the universities listed here. So you're literally, get to see and experience a diverse campus at St. Thomas University. This is just one way that STU is diverse. There are many ways that the community is diverse, but this is one way that it is. We do have international students represented from 35 countries. Here at St. Thomas, I was one, so I originally came from South Africa. And so there's quite a lot of international students. And like I said, that's one way STU is diverse. There are various ways that our community is very diverse. So student life on campus, what is that like? So this is as much as important as, getting a good academic education, because student campus life is also important. So one of the ways we have student life around campus is living in residence. So this is an option available to students. We have 3 residences. We have Harrington Hall, Vanier Hall, and Holy Cross House. Harrington Hall and Vanier Hall are gender neutral, and Holy Cross House is an all-female residence. So students have those options. Essentially, these residents are equipped with everything you'll need for your stay. So there's laundry, there's cable, and there's like a lot of support systems in there. So every residence and every wing has what we call residence advisors. So these are students that get trained to stay in residence. I was a residence advisor in my second year. And I can tell you that, we receive a lot of extensive training and just like things like CPR, but also just being good listeners. So for some of you, this will be your first time away from home, living by yourself. And it's also very, a transitional period for you. So the support you receive during your time in residence will be very, very crucial, essentially. So yeah, we have a lot of supports other than residents. So we do support students both academically and personally, because we recognize that you're not just a student. There are many facets of you that also require support, and that actually contributes to your well-being as a student and helps you perform well academically. So we will support you academically in terms of like the writing center, where you can go if you needed someone to proofread your research papers, or if you needed help with citation. Because I know in high school, you might use a different citation than another department might use. Here at STU, for example, in the criminology department, we used APA, and in the human rights department, we used Chicago. So for me, it was always confusing when I was writing papers in terms of like switching between 2 citation styles. But the writing center was really helpful in like just like helping me with that. On the personal side of things, we do have mental health support for students. So whether that be one-on-one counseling or group counseling as well. So yeah, St. Thomas is a supportive community, and I can attest to this, having been a student here as well. And that's one of the reasons I chose St. Thomas, because I was looking for a university where I wouldn't just be a number. I'd be known by my name, which is something that's has been true. So we will support students in terms of like from the very first day you get here to the day you graduate, essentially. And I think that's really something that is unique at STU because we're such a small school. So our support is we're a tight-knit community, which is something you hear a lot being thrown around about STU, that we're a tight-knit community. And it's very true, we are. And like I said, you'll be known by your name and not your student ID number, for example. So how do you become a student? So you're probably wondering, okay, I like this university. How do I apply? So the first step we recommend is get to know Stu a little bit. So I commend you for, watching this recording or being a part of this panel and just being here with us today. I think you're on the right path, essentially. So get to know Stu a little bit more in terms of like do a little bit of research. There's a lot of opportunities for you to kind of like meet with people around STU. So like if you wanted to meet with an admissions counselor like myself, you can definitely do that. I am the representative for Western Canada, so you're more than welcome to reach out to me and we can set up a virtual meeting and we kind of like work it out. I know the time difference between Western Canada and here a little bit different, but we can definitely always work it out and see how best we can accommodate you. So that would be the first step. And you can also book a campus tour. So we do have virtual campus tours that students can take. And I think this is something that I'm very proud of about STU, because I know when I was applying to STU, we didn't really have virtual tours. So I literally came to campus and had no idea what campus looked like, apart from the pictures that I'd seen. But I know a virtual tours really assist you in terms of like just kind of seeing yourself as a student in this very campus. It gives you a little bit of idea in terms of like where your life could be, essentially. The next step would be to apply. So submit your application. Our applications opened on October 1st for the fall 2023 intake, essentially. So if you're in grade 12 and like you have a grade 11 results, you're more than welcome to apply. Would consider you under early admissions, but you can also apply with your grade 12 after receiving those grades, essentially. And then after you've been accepted, congratulations. The next step would be for you to apply for scholarships and bursaries. So this only comes after you've received an admissions decision from us. And this would be the next step that you kind of go through, essentially. And the deadline for that would be March 1st. And then applying for residence would be the next step. Then confirming your enrollment and eventually choosing your courses. And I just want to emphasize the fact that like at any point during one of these stages, and if you need any sort of help, you can definitely reach out. So it's not a thing where you're kind of like on your own having to figure it out at any stage. If you're hitting a roadblock or anything like that, we recommend just reaching out to us and we'll be more than happy to help you, because we understand that this is a daunting process. Like, this is your future and all of that. So we really want to make the process as smooth as possible as we can. So steps to apply for scholarships and bursaries. So like I said, this comes after you have been accepted, and we use an online application portal, and it will have a tab for you to go to where it says next steps. This is where it will kind of guide you in terms of like letting you know if we have missing documents from you or that sort of thing. And every time it updates, essentially. And once you've been accepted, it will tell you what the next steps are. So it will be telling you apply for residence, apply for scholarships. Then the second step would be to get more information on scholarships. So we do have quite a lot of information webinars for scholarships, and you actually get to meet with an admissions counselor to give you like some helpful tips on submitting your application, essentially. And then you'd be able to apply. So I recommend applying for both bursaries and scholarships. They're assessed on different criteria. So scholarships are based on academic merit, so looking at your grades, your GPA, that sort of thing. Whereas bursaries are assessed on a needs basis. So just kind of looking at your financial standing and all of that. But like I said, you can definitely meet with an admissions counselor and we'd be more than happy to assist you one-on-one. I've already plugged virtual and campus tours, but I really can't recommend these enough. And like I said, they really allow you to kind of see yourself in this space, essentially, and you get to hear about the different services that we offer. And I think one of the best things about it too is that you receive the tour from a current student. So what better way to kind of like hear about St. Thomas student than from someone who's actually currently a St. Thomas student. You get to ask them about their experience in terms of like as a student, like what services have they used and that sort of thing, which really kind of like helps you in making your decision. So yeah, so see yourself in person or in virtual events. Our virtual event series began on September, so we'll be hosting quite a lot of events in terms of like different stages that you are. So right now our focus is info sessions as people are preparing to apply. But at the beginning of next year, we'll start having more focused sessions. So like residence, scholarships, that sort of thing. We'll start having those specific info sessions. And to just find out which one is happening and that sort of thing, you can register in advance at stu.ca/stewbound. So you'll be able to see all the upcoming events that are that might interest you or that you're kind of like thinking about. For example, the residence one, you'll actually get to hear from the Residence Life Office, which is great. And we do have, I guess for next year, we do have in-person open house in spring, which is on March 25th. And then we do have a virtual one as well coming up. That one will be in February, essentially. But you will be able to find all of this information on stu.ca /stewbound. And like I said, if you have any questions about future events, feel free to like reach out, and I will leave my contact information at the end so that you'll be able to reach out. But yeah, so apply. So if you're, like I said, if you're in grade 12 and like you're thinking of coming to STU, if you've done your research, you've gone through all those steps, I recommend you to apply. It's just stu.ca/apply 2023. And you can have your transcript sent directly to us at admissions@stu.ca. So yeah, we'll kind of move on to our panel discussion. So we do have a current student. So I thought, what better way than to hear from someone who's actually a student at the moment. And that will kind of assist you in getting, his perspective and like how he's found his STU experience. But yeah, Adam, you can go ahead and introduce yourself.
Yeah, hi. So my name's Adam McDougall. I am a fourth year student here at STU. I'm from Calgary, Alberta, and I'm honoring in political science, and I have a minor in psychology and in English.
Perfect. Yeah, so like you said, he's also from Alberta, and I think, that's kind of like important in terms of like just hearing the perspective of someone who's actually in the same shoes as you, like considered STU and like came all the way from out west, which I know a lot of students might hesitate on, just because of the distance and the time zone and all of that. So that will actually lead me to my first question. So I guess, how have you been able to like navigate being so far away from home? So I guess homesickness, but also the time zone difference. How have you kind of like navigated through that?
There's been a couple different strategies that I've used for sure. A big one is just the fact that we have FaceTime available to us. It's super nice. I FaceTime my parents all the time.
Yeah.
Uh, it's nice to see their faces, to talk to them, so that makes it easier for sure. But I think another thing is that I've found a really good support system through my friends here at STU. I know a lot of people who are from out of town, out of province. Even I have a bunch of international friends as well. And so just really talking to those kind of people, and if you are feeling homesick, just saying like, "Hey, I'm feeling a little homesick this week," or those kind of things, because that way you'll be able to find support through the people you meet here.
Yeah, I definitely agree and I can relate. Being someone who came across the world, this is something that was very crucial to me when I was making my decision to come to St. Thomas, because I really wanted a place where I'd feel supported. So like I did the same things as you. I, had a community that was there to support me. So in terms of like my friends, but also just like professors were very supportive. So I remember the year that COVID hit. I remember that Christmas I couldn't go home because obviously borders are closed. But I remember one of my professors actually invited me to have Christmas lunch with them. And that was yeah, I was just like, wow. I was very like that really touched my heart in terms of like, she didn't know me prior to that or anything like that. But she was able to extend that to me. And I feel like that's something very unique to STU, from those connections you make with your professors. But yeah, and like also like just the different support systems here at STU. There's quite a lot. So like I mentioned, mental health support that we have. So, if you're feeling homesick, and you needed to talk to someone about it, there's definitely someone you can talk to about it. Whether you're staying in residence or off campus, we definitely have great supports for students. So the next one is how was the transition for you, I guess from high school to university? Like, was that a big adjustment? Like, what was your experience like?
It was a big adjustment at first, but I think with again with all the support that Stu has here, it wasn't too bad. The biggest jump for me was just the change in workload. I think that was kind of a difficult jump to navigate at times, but I found that just having a set schedule was really helpful, and writing down my due dates and when I was going to study and really sticking to that was super, super helpful. But other things like I think you mentioned earlier, the writing center was very helpful to me. I've used that in my third and fourth year as well. I still find it useful just to get another pair of eyes on an assignment
Oh yeah.
and help you with writing that way. But it was a difficult jump for sure, as I think any jump into post secondary will be. But it was very, very manageable with how Stu treats its students.
Yeah, I think I can also relate on that one. Sorry, I'm gonna relate on everything. I guess for me it was the same thing. I think obviously the transition looks different for everybody. But I think having those support systems was really very, very helpful. It made it a lot easier. Like in terms of like, creating your schedule, we have a person here to support you to do that. And it's just a matter of you reaching out and saying, hey, I need a little hand with this. And I know, for example, the difference between high school and university is that in university, in high school, you kind of have a set schedule. So from like 8 a.m. to like 2 p.m. or 3 p.m., what have you, your schedule is kind of like set for you. Whereas in university, you set your own schedule, and you might have a class at 10, but not another one until like 4 p.m. I want to say. I know that was my first year, and I was like, oh my gosh, what do I do with all this time? And there were a bunch of things I could do. I could like procrastinate, which is my favorite thing. Or I could take a nap, my other favorite thing, or I could do readings, or homework and stuff like that. So we do actually have a student success coach here that can kind of help you, um, you know, uh, do all of those things. So you can actually do all of those things. You can have time to take a nap, procrastinate a little bit, obviously eat as well because you want you to take care of yourself, and also do your work. So we do have, I think we have a resource and a support for everything that you can think of. And if we don't, there's likely someone that can still help you help you with it essentially. And I guess that kind of goes into my next question. I know you kind of mentioned how you did it, but how do you kind of like stay on top of things? I know especially right now, it's kind of like end of the semester, papers are piling up, final projects and stuff like that. But how do you find yourself kind of like staying afloat and like staying on top of everything that you have to do?
A big thing for me is just really making sure I write down all of my due dates. So at the beginning of the semester, as soon as I get syllabus for a
Mhm.
class, I'll go through and make sure I have all the due dates down and in my schedule in my planner. And then from there, it's just a matter of kind of knocking out the ones that are closest due, I guess. So I'll finish a reading, I'll do the assignment that's due closest, and from there I'm able to see, because I have everything planned out, if there's any big projects in the future that I need to start working on a little bit sooner, or if I can let them go for another week and get to them a little bit later. But I think it's way easier to kind of mentally prepare and mentally plan your weeks if you do have that visual in front of you, or this is what I have to do, this is what I have to do it. If you don't write things down, it can get a little bit jumbled for sure.
Oh yeah, I know that for sure. That was my same experience as well. I was someone that needed to have it sort of written out, and like I had to know what my week was gonna look like, my month was gonna look like, especially during like midterm season. I knew that was like the busiest time, and I needed to have it written down. But we have a support that helps you with that, so you don't have to come in already having had that figured out. We do have people that can sort of support you, in terms of like figuring out your schedule and like creating a planner, creating some sort of schedule that really works for you. And I guess that kind of relates to my other question, which is, how have you managed in terms of like, because I know you're a well-rounded student, but how have you managed kind of like being a part of like clubs and societies, but also I know you're on the men's volleyball team. How have you managed sort of being a student, but also a student athlete as well?
I think that it's really volleyball has taken up a lot of my time here, and I love it. I absolutely love being part of the men's volleyball team here. It's something that has really shaped who I am as a person. But even with a schedule as demanding as we have, we practice at least once every day, sometimes twice a day, and then we have games on the weekend. But even with that, I'm still able to participate in things on campus. Um, there's yoga on campus that I do sometimes, and then there's random little events that they have in JDH, which is one of the buildings here on campus. Even if it's just little things, like I remember in years past, they've brought in therapy dogs during some of the
Okay.
more stressful times of year. It's just
Popular one.
yeah, it's so easy, but it only takes a little bit of time out of your day, and
Yeah.
you can hop into that. And then I'm also uh, through the volleyball team, I'm on the student athlete council here, so I'm still able to get involved with the community.
Mhm.
Um, so it is really just about budgeting your time and kind of setting your priorities straight. But you do absolutely have time to get out and get involved in the community, or just enjoy the community if you want to as well.
Yeah, for sure. I think I had the same experience in terms of like still focusing on my studies, but also being involved in different clubs and societies because I think that actually allows you to have a well-rounded experience. And like I think it also allows you to kind of shape your own experience. So in your case, you were involved with volleyball. And I know some students will be involved in like maybe the student union. It's like really it allows you to kind of like shape your own experience here too, which I think is really great. And feel free to have put in any questions you might have in the Q&A section. I'll be sure to like go to them. But I guess the question that I have right now is like what kind of tips, or maybe one, if you can think of one, what kind of tip would you give yourself, or I guess something you kind of wish you knew when you're in your first year, having been here for like a few years, like what kind of tips when you look back would you say, oh, I wish I had known that kind of thing?
I think really just that you're never as like isolated as you might think. There's always somebody that you can go to and talk to, even if it's just for little things. A lot of people are probably in the same boat as you, even if
Yeah.
you don't think they are. So really just reaching out to as many people as you can, um, extending yourself out and just kind of meeting new people, as well as if you do need help, reaching out to those people for help. I think that that's a really good recipe for success, to get to where you want to be. And if you're in a place where you don't want to be, then it's a good way to get out of that.
Yeah, I definitely like feel the same way. I think the tip that I had for myself was just to like be patient with myself in terms of like and I think that's something I would also pass on to other students as well, to just be patient with yourself. It is a transition obviously, and I think I also agree with what you say in terms of like reaching out, because there are quite a lot of supports here dedicated to students, and these supports are put in place to support students, because we recognize that they're crucial to your success and your time while you're at St. Thomas. So please utilize them. And there's no shame at all. And I think something that I like to stress when I'm talking to students, that there's no shame at all in reaching out for like mental health support or academic support or any sort of support we have here at STU. I think really Stu does a lot in terms of like moving away from the shame of reaching out for help. In fact, we encourage it. We want you to like send those emails to like an office that you're requesting help for, or like show up and like see them and talk to them, that sort of thing. They'll be actually so happy that you stop by, because like I said, you're not alone. And I think Adam, you said it so well, that you're not on your own and you don't have to figure it out on your own. We're actually a community. And so we try to like lift each other up as we're going. But yeah, so I'll just have take a look in the Q&A section to see if you have any questions. Um, but yeah, and then so did you have like any final things you wanted to add, Adam, for students?
Um, I guess the only thing I'd add is that I know that coming from out west, coming from Calgary to a bit of a smaller city, it might seem like a big jump, but
Mm.
I would just want to stress how much I've enjoyed the last 3.5 years that I've had here. They've been uh, extremely fun. Some of the happiest times of my life here, and I really just love the way people on the East Coast live. Coming from out west, that everything can be kind of hectic and busy all the time, but everybody on the East Coast is like so nice and so friendly, and they're so willing to incorporate you into whatever they're doing. And so just the way life works around here is so good. So I think that would be something to stress for sure.
Yeah, and I think I share the same sentiments in terms of like, I guess I've had really great experiences that I've actually decided to work here full time at St. Thomas. So it's a part of a community that I really love the way I was welcomed, being someone who's not even Canadian. And I've seen how Sue has just been so welcoming in terms of like even students from an hour away from Fredericton or across the country or even across the world. Stu is really supportive and very welcoming. And also the general Fredericton community as well. I find that everybody's super friendly, and this is something I find um I actually notice when I go back to my home country, like little things like holding the door for you. You might be like 10 feet away and someone will still hold the door for you and wait for you. So that's something the difference that I've realized here as compared to back home, that everybody's super friendly. Someone will even just like smile at you at the mall and you'd be like, oh, why are they smiling at me? But it's just like the friendliness of the community in general, which I really like.
I
Um,
stereotypically Canadian of that, I guess, is recently somebody held the door for me to get into Tim Hortons and
oh,
then let me go ahead of them in line
oh my
just
God.
because. So that was super nice.
Yeah, yeah, that happens quite a lot. So I'll just go back to my screen. Perfect. So yeah, so I guess just to like wrap up and just like put everything together, I think another way you can actually stay in contact with us is just following us on social media. You will actually be able to see like what students are up to and like what the university is up to as well. I think it also gives you a great idea of like what student life is also like at St. Thomas. I know when I was applying to St. Thomas, I would always check their Instagram account every single day, because I wanted to know what students were doing, and like what I could potentially be doing once I'm a student. So definitely follow us on Facebook, on Twitter, Instagram, and even our YouTube channel. But yeah, thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. It was really amazing to just kind of like share with you a little bit about this place that means so much to me. And stay in contact, stay in touch. Don't be afraid to reach out to us at any point that you are. And we'll, be more than happy to kind of like connect with you, and just like assist you with whatever stage in the process of applying that you're in. Even if you're in grade 11 or whatever stage that you're in, we'd be more than happy to like assist you and guide you. But yeah, thank you so much for joining, and I hope you take care.